Hi everyone. I set a record because I forgot to vlog yesterday. Or I didn't actually forget. I knew that I didn't vlog and I woke up and it was like 1 in the morning and I'm like, day's over, oopsie. So I'm doing 2 vlogs in one. Yesterday was day 25. So I'll talk about day 25 and maybe I'll do some sort of scene change to make it into day 26 when I'm done. So day 25 was yesterday. Yesterday, there's so much running around to do. Went back to work, so was busy with stuff with work, and I had a physical, which was a little entertaining because she knows what's been going on, and she's like, "So, how's the past year been for you?" And I'm like, "Where would you like me to start?" Because pretty much all my health issues started shortly after my physical last year, but my physical last year was virtual because COVID was in like prime time. So I'm like literally looking like from my toes up to my head, like, okay, what's been wrong the past year? And it was a lot. Whatever. She measured me in at 5'7", so that was exciting because the last time I got measured in, I was 5'6 3/4", so I'm not shrinking as much. Either I grew or their stuff is just off, but I'm going to go with I grew and I'm really still 5'7". Yeah, you do shrink with age. So it was back to back. Like, I have made the executive decision that I am not driving myself to appointments anymore. Not ones that are far away, I guess, and not ones that are important, because I'm just distracted and it's not a safe way to travel anywhere. So one of my good friends in town took me, and both my appointments were right in Boston. They were close to each other, like a 5-minute walk, but like one was at 1:30, which I had that physical scheduled for a long time, and then the 2:30 appointment was with the new breast surgeon. Oh, happy day. I'll get to that. So meeting with the breast surgeon obviously was like top-notch crucial. So when I had the appointment with the internist, I said, like, I gotta get out of here and like walk down a couple blocks to get to the hospital, because the plastic surgeon appointment is just too important. Like, sorry, but that's more important than you right now, because I need to get that squared away because surgery is supposed to be next week. So yeah, the physical was uneventful. I got kind of paranoid looking at myself, where like, oh, I have these 2 dots on my legs. Like, could that be something? And I have no makeup on intentionally actually today, but I have this like blotch on my face, and I'm like, is that something? Because that's new. You know, you start to wonder if like every little minute thing that's different is something that's wrong. Because I didn't see this coming at all. So I'm like, okay, what else is wrong? And as far as I know, nothing else is wrong. Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, my shoulder hurts sometimes, though I pretty much know why, but I totally spaced and didn't even ask her about that. So journals are good. I don't like journaling, but they're helpful to remember what to ask. And like, I always put my appointments now in Google Drive, or Google Calendar, so I can like make a note in there. Remember to ask doctor about shoulder or whatever. My memory is just crap right now. There's just so much to keep track of. The funny thing is, like, about with work, like, my memory is fine. Like, I know what I need to get done and I have an organized system there. But like, personally, there's so many appointments and to-dos, I just don't remember them all. And I'm fine that I don't remember them all. So I had that appointment and then went to the plastic surgeon appointment, which weirdly was at a burn center. So I don't want to use names for any of this stuff, but I just had a gut feeling that this was going to work out better. Not because I'm trying to be a half glass, half full kind of person, but I don't know, like, your gut just tells you stuff. And I just felt like it was going to be a better appointment. I did Google the guy first to learn about him, and holy cow, does he have a resume. But a lot of doctors in Boston have great resumes, and their bedside manners aren't always stellar. So I'm like, I'm going to go in thinking positive thoughts. I had so many questions to pull together. I had questions left over from the last time I went to the plastic surgeon, and then follow-up questions because that appointment didn't go as I had expected it to go. And then there was just like lists and lists and lists, and I couldn't even remember where they all were. And then who texted me to tell me, make sure you ask this. It's just like overloading. So I'm like, you know what? I just need to shut it down, because this guy clearly knows what he's doing based on the stuff that he's already done. And I gotta tell you who, but I don't think it's like appropriate for this kind of thing. Just got an incredible resume. And my biggest thing was like, am I comfortable with him? You know, I needed to trust my gut with that appointment. So I went in, and it was in a hospital setting, different from the other appointment, which was more like a individual practice. So the rooms and the environment, I mean, it looks different when you're in a smaller, you know, an individual private practice versus like you're in a hospital room. And it looked like every other hospital room you go to. It wasn't that much different from the room I was in for the physical. A lot of background noise. I couldn't find a quiet place to be today, so you get what you get. So I saw him just like walking by when I first came in, and this is a really weird analogy, and I don't mean to sound inappropriate, but it's almost like when you see someone for a first date. It's like you know, you get a glimpse of them as they walk in if you're meeting someplace, and then it's like, okay, what do I think of that first glimpse? You know, whatever. Because this person's going to have a really important role in my life. I mean, he's reshaping my woman parts, you know, and that's going to affect me for the rest of my life. So there was a nurse that was there, so it wasn't just him, which was nice. I think they legally had to do that, but it was a little refreshing just to have somebody else in the room. And I'll go through the steps a little bit, only because the appointment was so different than the other one. I'm a very visual person. Like, if I see pictures, it makes sense. If you throw big words at me, I don't know what they are. And he started, I can't remember the order of what he said when. The past 2 days have been a blur. But I remember that he started drawing a picture of a breast to show me how incisions are made before I even asked him to do that. So right there, I was like, okay, good. He's showing me stuff without me asking in a way that I understand it. And the way he explained how the incisions would be made, probably for me specifically, because he looked at my, you know, files from the breast surgeon, and what he was saying matched what the breast surgeon had told me. So it made me feel comfortable, because like they're on the same page. You know, there'd be a cut above, a cut above the nipple, and then a cut below the nipple, which is not always how they do the surgery. Sometimes they make a cut from underneath. It totally depends on your case. My nose is really itchy. I don't want to use my hands. This COVID thing is driving me nuts. And I said to him, like, I appreciate that he drew pictures, because that's how I learn. And he told me that he was a visual learner too. I'm like, all right, good. On the same page, you know, we're doing well here. So the method that he used to explain how he was thinking he would do the reconstruction was all so different from how the other woman did. And one thing I want people to understand too is, especially if any of you are watching that are newly diagnosed with breast cancer and will need to have a mastectomy or a double, it's great to hear other people's stories about their experiences for survivors. And you also have to remember that your body is different from other people's bodies. So I'm at a point right now where, you know, I wanted to have information, but right now my brain is just like overflowing with stuff. I can't, you know, I think, well, this happened to this person, and she said this, and she said that. And it's so much that I'm like, I don't know if I'm coming or going anymore. And I have to remember that it's my body and it's me. Like, my boobs look like my boobs. I don't really have a big book of people's boobs that I've seen to compare them to know, like, what's different. And even when you look at, like, before and after pictures, you know, or even just after pictures, you have to know that your body doesn't look like their body to start off with. So you can't expect to have the same treatment or any of that. And, you know, that's something that I'm getting now. It's like, yeah, I'd like to have her little perfect breasts, but like, what did she start off with? You have to consider your own body and your own size and, you know, how big you are, whatever, or small you are, whatever. But he asked me like basic things, like how tall I am, how much I weigh. On a side note, and I don't know if it means anything, I've gained 10 pounds since last year. I don't know why. I'm at the heaviest weight that I've been at. I mean, besides from last year, probably since I was pregnant with my sons. Yeah, I don't care. I'm being all open. I weigh 177 pounds, which I'm like, what? Back in the day when I was emaciated and totally stressed out, I was 145. And I'm like, I can never maintain that. That was not a healthy weight for me. And again, I'm 5'7", although I used to be closer to 5'8", but I've shrunk. Yeah, but like, you know, 155, like I could do, but I'd have to like keep working hard for that and exercise a ton. And I know as you get older, metabolism slows down and stuff, but I wasn't happy when I weighed at 165, but I thought that that was a like reasonable weight for me. I could still fit in a bikini and not feel weird about it. Like my stomach was pretty flat, but the weight I am now, I don't even know where the hell that came from. I really don't. I don't know if it's the change with the, well, no, because I had the kidney stone after. I don't know, but I've gained 10 pounds since last year and don't know what that's about. So I told him how much I weigh. He asked me what my bra size was, and I told him. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter if you know that too. I'm a 38D. Why are there people everywhere? Yeah. Hang on. La 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 la. Move along, move along, move along. No editing, people. This is reality TV. Okay, so yeah, he asked me specifics about me, and I'm trying to think now. I'm distracted. There's like people all over the place. Should I walk and talk? There's a lot of people coming. I don't know what to do right now. Whatever. I'm staying where I am. Anyway, so he asked me a bunch of questions about me, and then he explained like how the process would work, you know, how the surgery would work in the reconstruction, and explained like, you know, here are the different ways that people could do it, and his recommendation was to not take the tissue out of my stomach. He's like, it's a very invasive procedure, which I get that it is, and he would not recommend doing that at all. He does have knowledge of FMD, which is fantastic. Either way, when the appointment was over, my vascular doctor told me to page him. It feels so important to page him so that he can get a hold of the plastic surgeon and they could just like touch base to make sure, you know, they're all on the same page. But he's out of Mass General, and people at Mass General know what FMD is. There's like 14 FMD clinics in the world, as far as I know, and one of them happens to be in Boston and MGH. So very lucky to have that. So yeah, he talked to, you know, from how he talked about FMD, you know, he seemed like he understood what he was doing. He was confident in what he was saying, but he wasn't like snotty, or he wasn't cocky about it. He wasn't arrogant. He was confident in what he was saying and very calm. So, you know, that made me feel calm because he was calm. And that's so what I think anyone would need going into surgery, especially when you're awake during the surgery, is, you know, to be calm. So he explained the different things, and then he told me that that a silicone implant would be the way he would go. That they're very safe to use. You know, it was very rare that things go wrong. He just made me feel so at ease. And then his movements were very, not slow, but like just gentle. Like I didn't even notice to the left of him was an actual silicone implant. And there was also an expander, which I've heard of and people have told me about, but I've never actually had seen one. So he had the silicone one there, and I wasn't as freaked out by it, but he was holding it and just talking while he was holding it, and I'll come out a little more. I asked him if I can hold it. It was almost like I wanted to have it in my hand. I mean, obviously not that specific one, but have it in my hand so I could know, okay, what does this feel like? And when this is in, like, what's that gonna be like? So it was like having ownership. And that was very calming for me. It's almost like a weird stress ball or something, having that and knowing what it feels like. Because I'm like, when I feel, or when others in the future may feel, this is what they're gonna feel. And he also talked about the tissue expanders and how they work. He made it seem like the expanders were not going to be used, that he's probably going to go straight to putting the implants in. The expander is a much thicker material on the outside, and it almost has like a little socket that you pop up, that's what they use to like make it bigger, or I guess smaller, depending on what's going on. Like if you want your boob bigger or whatever, like he showed me how all that works. And I touched it just with like my pointer, because it looked not mechanical, but it looked like not warm and inviting, I guess. I don't know. The silicone's just like, it feels like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. And then I asked him about saline implants, because I'd heard about that too, and I can't recall now, like why it wasn't recommended in general. It wasn't like specific to me. I was just trying to dig deep here with the information, remembering yesterday. Oh, so then he also, which was interesting, he talked about where the implant gets put in. You can either put it underneath your muscle or over your muscle. So if you put it under your muscle, if I'm remembering this correctly, again, not a medical doctor, if you put it underneath the muscle, it looks like more normal, I guess, from the outside. But when you like lift your arms or do exercise or something, it could get distorted, I think he said. Like it would just look a little bit different when you go to, move, whatever, if I'm correct, understand that right. The other option was to do it on the outside of the muscle, and then you don't get that distortion when you move your hand, but because it's on the outside, like not if I went down you'd even see anything different, but when it's on the outside, the actual, actually I will change that just a little bit here. When you put it on the outside, like when you hold an implant or anything that's partially liquid on its side and it's circular, the top does get kind of like it's not smooth anymore. Picture just like taking something that's round and plastic. I mean, you can Google what an implant looks like, and it's filled with gel and stuff. So, when you put it up on its side, all this stuff kind of comes to the bottom, and then, you have a little bit of like wrinkling, I guess, towards the top. And that's the disadvantage of having it on the outside of your muscle, is that like, when maybe that's when you're lifting your hand up that you would see that like little dimpling. So it's like, which one do you want? Do you want distortion or do you want dimpling? I don't know, but he's the guy who knows. And what I liked was that he explained stuff to me. The gist was that when he goes in for surgery, that's when he'll pretty much know what the story is and what he has to work with and make that decision, then. Which honestly, after all the decisions that I've had to make and the vibe that I got from him, of course I'd love to make all the decisions on my own as to what's best for my body, but I don't know between the two what would be best. I don't know. And it's that point where you have to not really let go, but just trust that this guy has done amazing work. I mean, the articles he's written on the things that he's done that are just groundbreaking is just so impressive. That like he knows more what to decide than I would. Like, what do I know about them? So that was 25 days. For 25 days, I've not even looked up a lot, but learned about breasts more than I ever have. I'm not really qualified to make that decision of what's going to look best on me. So I have to have that trust that he's going to make the best decision. And I got such a good sense from him that it's going to be okay and that he's going to make that decision and it's going to be fine. And if it's not going to be fine, then we'll figure it out. And he actually like put the implant, like he has his lab thing on, and he put it like underneath to show me like, this is what it would feel like. And I put my hand there to feel like what it would feel like. And it just made it real and not so foreign to me. Because it's hard to like look at an implant in your hand and think, well, what's that going to look like on my body? But when he's putting it behind his clothes, it just made more sense to me. So I loved his approach. I really did. He answered all my questions, and then, sorry, my son's asking me to pick him up, and I don't even know what time it is, so I'll be quick. I always say that, but then I never am. Time management has never been my forte. But I want to get through that visit just so that you understand, especially for people that are going through it. So after that, he talked about the nipples sparing, whether or not that's going to work, and I know that they can't spare my nipples, so he talked about taking extra skin and making a nipple out of that, and then you eventually at the tail end of all this stuff get the areola tattooed on, which I'd heard before too from this breast surgeon and the first plastic surgeon, and then it came down to, the disrobing part. And it was so, I didn't feel like a freak this time. I keep using that word. It's like the best word I can think of. Like I just feel different, I guess, because they look different. And my friend was with me, and I'm like, before, like, I just opened it up and my other friend was just sitting right there. And I'm like, okay, does she want to see my boobs or not? Well, surprise, she just did. And at that time, they were still pretty bruised. Like now they're not really bruised. They just have like little marks from where the, where the needle went in. So they closed the curtain so my friend couldn't see. And I asked her, like, are you curious to know like what it looks like? Not my boobs in general, but like, that yes, I have breast cancer and here's what my boobs look like. Not that she knows what they looked like before, but I asked her because some people would want to know and some wouldn't. And again, I don't want to do TMI with friends because sometimes they just run because it's just too much. Which is why I asked her. So I did that, and the nurse pulled the blue screen down. That color blue used to be my favorite color. It's weird. Why is it blue? I'm sure there's a reason why it's blue. It's like a green screen, but it's blue. So she pulled it down, and I'm like, oh, there's the blue. I remember the blue from last time. But last time the whole wall was blue, so it was just like stand for my mugshot, So I didn't take the top totally off. He just had me take it down to my elbows and standing straight ahead. And then he didn't tell me he was going to take a picture, but I knew when they took the thing down that he was going to take a picture. And he took one picture. And then that was it. And I stood there awkwardly and I said, should I turn 45 degrees now for my other mugshot picture? He's like, no, that's it. I'm like, oh, okay. Like one picture, it's all I needed, Whereas before it was like stand straight, picture, stand to your left, picture, stand 45 degrees, picture, stand the other 45 degrees, picture, stand to your right, picture. It's like a mugshot. Not a good feeling. So I liked that approach with how he did that. And then that was it for my boobs. And then I covered them up. Oh, no. Oh, that wasn't it. What he did, and I don't remember if it was over or under. It was under. This was so reassuring for me. It's not because I'm sad, but those plastic surgeon appointments are more difficult than hearing that you have cancer, at least for me. Because I know that they'll have the cancer removed. So I feel like, yes, that's gone, but the plastic surgeon is getting you another body back. And that's a body you're gonna have for the rest of your life. So that appointment is so much more emotional. And what he did was he took his, I mean, I'm not going to just rope me here, but he took his hand and he like cupped under a little bit, you know, just like under a little bit with the tissue. And he, you know, said to me to look down. And he said, like, that's what your boob will look like when we're done. And it made me feel so much better. I haven't broken down on camera at all yet. But it made me feel so much better because I'm looking down and it's like, it's still my skin. And it's still my boob. And I can't see what's inside of it. When I looked down, it didn't seem so foreign. Because he cupped it almost like it was like a baby, you know? Like he cupped it here, like it'll be higher. I know I'm not doing this well, but it'll be higher and maybe a little bit smaller, which is fine. I don't need to be a D cup. I'm not going to be an A cup though. And then it was still my boob. And like even now as I'm looking at the camera, you know, he cupped it underneath and it was just like a little bit perkier and, you know, my cleavage will look different, but it was still my skin and it was still my boob. And it's like, take all this shit out that doesn't belong there and put whatever you need to put in by someone that you trust, and then close it all up. And if that's what it looks like when it's closed up, I will be thrilled. You know, it's funny because that was day 25 and I'm like, 25, that's a quarter of 100. And I wonder what will be happening at day 100. And I didn't anticipate to be crying like this. I was supposed to be screaming today, not crying. I'll save the screaming for tomorrow or later on today when I do the actual 26th day. But I, like, when he did that, it was just like, everything's gonna be okay. And that's all, like, anyone ever wants to hear, is that it's gonna be okay. My son's calling me, so I have to go. Sorry, I have to ignore him just for a quick sec. Yeah, and then at the end of the appointment, it was only a half hour, it wasn't long. He put his hand out. And he didn't put it out like this, he put it out like this. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. Do I high five that? Like, I didn't know what to do. And I can't, or maybe I can. Let me try to multitask here. I should use the tripod, but I'm not gonna do that. All right. So he put his hand out like this and I wasn't sure what to do. So I put my hand up like starting to shake. And then he held my hand, he just took his hand and went like this on top of my hand. Like just super gently. And he just like gave me a little squeeze, like, and that was just like, top it off. Like, it's gonna be fine. And I'm like, you got the job. And he's like, I'll see you next week. I'm like, yeah, I'll see you next week. And it just closed everything up for me, where I have this breast surgeon who's fantastic. I have this plastic surgeon who's like this wonder man. And then I have my vascular surgeon who's there just to make sure everything is all good to go. So I have my team, my medical team together now. And I'm just so thankful. I'm so grateful to be in this area. I'm so grateful to be in this area. That was my day 25. While I'm crying like this, it truly is out of joy. Because after the appointment, I cried too. And I'm like, I'm just so relieved. Because I'm like, what would have happened if I didn't like him? But he just like blew me away. I have to go pick up my son. Yeah, that was my day 25. I got my team. Game on. All right, bye everyone. I'll come back later to do my 26.